Welcome back, guys. It is Dr. Tom, Australian osteopath. Today we are debunking a huge myth in the fitness world, and this is running actually good for our knees? You've probably heard it from friends, parents, or even doctors. Stop running, it's bad for your joints. But the truth, for most people, running actually makes your knees stronger. So does running cause arthritis or weaken knees? Not according to science. In fact, runners have a lower rate of knee osteoarthritis than people who don't run at all, and especially those who have sedentary lifestyles and sedentary jobs. Let's start with what the studies actually say. There was one study that reviewed over 100,000 people and found that recreational runners have about a 3.5 chance of developing knee osteoarthritis, when compared with a 10% chance of getting osteoarthritis in the non-running population. Now, this is quite crazy and does show us that, hey, there is something to running and something that may be causing our chondrocytes or something to keep restoring and helping our joints stay healthy. In another study, they performed an MRI scans before and after a marathon and found no cartilage damage in recreational runners, and in some cases, improved cartilage quality in the knee joint. Now, we're going to dive into this later, but this has something to do with the chondrocyte development when we add impact through a joint, and this can be a good thing. Study number 3, this study compared recreational and elite runners. Recreational runners again had a lower risk of arthritis, while the risk increased only in high volume elite athletes with extreme mileage. So no, running does not grind your knees away. It actually stimulates cartilage metabolism and strengthens the joint, just like lifting weights strengthen muscles. The only thing is, if you're doing too much of it or doing too much of it with poor technique, yes, of course, it's like everything. Too much of something can be bad. So what's the physiology behind running and joint health, especially that of the knee? When you run, your knee joint experiences cyclic loading, controlled repetitive compression. That loading stimulates chondrocytes, the cells that maintain cartilage. Cartilage is avascular, meaning it doesn't have its own blood supply. It relies on movement and pressure changes to get nutrients. So every step you take acts like a mini pump, bringing oxygen and nutrients to the joint and flushing waste products out. That's why moderate, consistent running actually keeps cartilage healthy. On the other hand, being sedentary leads to less fluid movement in the joint, weaker surrounding muscles, and greater stiffness, all risk factors for knee degeneration. So you might be thinking, hey, I run and I have the most excruciating pain in my knees. And yes, this is unfortunately true. For some of us, it can come down to poor biomechanics or poor form, which needs to be addressed by either a physical therapist, a personal trainer, or an Australian osteopath, whatever it may be. But usually it's not the running itself, it's the way you run or how you load your body. So the common culprits of this can include overstriding, so landing with your foot too far in front of your body, which increases the braking forces through your knee. Weak hip stabilizers, so poor glute control, can cause the knee to collapse inwards in what we call a valgus force, irritating the patellofemoral joint. Also, sudden spikes in training load. So increasing the mileage or intensity too quickly can also load quite often the patellar tendon or your part of your quads, and that can cause tendinitis of the knee, which is pain of the knee. So these factors overload the knee faster than it can adapt. But again, that's technique and strength, not running itself. And when we break this down, there are a lot of different gym techniques you can actually do as cross-training to strengthen yourself as a runner. So what's the role of strength and conditioning for runners? So this is where smart runners separate themselves. So key muscle groups to train in this includes the glutes and hip abductors, such as the glute medius on the outside. Quadriceps and hamstrings, so these absorb the loads and control deceleration, especially the hamstrings. A lot of us run too heavily through the quad, so it's important to keep this even between the front and the back, because even when you're running down a hill, if you don't have enough hamstring strength, the force is more likely to go into the actual knee itself. Calves and foot stabilizers are another huge one, and these manage impact forces and propulsion. Exercises like single leg squats, Bulgarian split squats, hip thrusts, hamstring bridges, and calf raises build the kind of tissue capacity that protects the knee joint mile after mile. So in other words, if you're getting into running, you may want to split the amount of running you're doing with some gym conditioning sessions to get you prepped for the load that you're about to get into. And I always say, do not go jumping up more than 1 kilometer a week. And if you're American, that's under a mile. So make sure you don't add too much onto your training load, because this is what I see in clinic will often cause someone to come into me with it, whether it be ITB syndrome, a little meniscal irritation, patellofemoral pain, whatever it may be. So how to protect your knees for the long term? Here's what the evidence and the clinical experience suggests. So run smart, not scared. Gradually build the mileage. Follow a 10% rule to avoid overload. Focus on technique. Slight forward lean, mid-foot strike, and quick cadence. Around 170 to 180 steps per minute. Strength train at least 2 times a week. So build muscles to absorb load, not let your joints take it all. So as we talked about before, this is often in the hips and the ankles as well that we need to focus on. And another huge one that people often overlook, recover well. And this is sleep, this is nutrition, this is doing mobility and stretching sessions, making sure that the tissues around the joint allow sufficient recovery. So let's set the record straight. Number 1, running does not ruin your knees. And in a lot of cases, it is actually quite good for your knees. What's your running goal this season? Write it down in the comment section. I want to know all about it. And if you want some programs to help running become a little easier on your knees, hit this link above or in the comments below in the description. Take care, guys, and we'll see you again next time.